welcome to the India Development Debate right here on ET Now. I'm Supriya Shrinate and straight on to death by breath in the national capital. Delhi is choking once again thanks to stubble burning in neighbouring states like Punjab and Haryana, but many other factors have contributed to this as well. The situation is in fact getting so bad that Canadian rock star Bryan Adams posted a hazy picture of his Delhi concert along with sarcastic message saying, "If you look carefully, you can see my shadow silhouetted in the dust and smoke of the venue over the audience. Magical India, namaste." To give its due, the Central Pollution Control Board has swung into action and enforcing the Graded Response Action Plan, although one has to see if it helps improve the air quality. According to private weather forecaster Skymet, the situation in the NCR region will get only worse in the coming days. Breathless in Delhi and what can be done to make it easier for Delhiites, that includes me, is the big topic of discussion and debate right here on the India Development Debate tonight. And I've got a special panel of guests tracking every move. Dr. Sumit Sharma, Director Earth Science and Climate Change TERI, Naini Jayasilan, former Member Secretary NCR and Planning Board, Akshay Marathi, Joint Secretary in the Aam Aadmi Party government, and of course Kailash Vasudev, Senior Advocate Supreme Court. So thank you very much all of you for being with us. Let me first begin with you, Dr. Sumit Sharma. It is being said by the Central Pollution Control Board has classified the air quality in Delhi as poor. There are two school of thoughts out there. One which believes it's not severe, it's just poor. Another that believes it's only going to get worsen. How serious is this? Because this is coming many days ahead of the onset of winter.
You're right. So, we are heading towards winters, and in winters what happens is, meteorological conditions are not in favor of good dispersion of emissions. So what happens is your pollution levels get accumulated in a small region because there are hardly any winds, the inversion layer comes down and the concentrations of pollutants increase tremendously. Now the levels are still not extremely high, but they are still very, very high in my opinion. Our standards for pollution, ambient air pollution in India are much relaxed in comparison to the WHO guidelines. So that means even if we are slightly ahead of our standards, we are still very, very high in terms of concentrations and we need to worry about it.
Fair point indeed. I'll go across to Ms. Naini Jayasilan, and Ms. Jayasilan, the Environment Pollution Prevention and Control Authority, the EPCA, has started implementation of the Graded Response Action Plan, the GRAP as it's being called, to contain the pollution. It's a multi-pronged approach. Do you think this is going to be a stitch in time that's going to save nine in some sense? Is this going to ensure that we have better breathing air than we did last year? Or is this happening too late and there are still many factors that you will worry about that will worsen the quality of air?
Well, one thing I would definitely say that it's a very good initiative. And the initiative launched by the Ministry of Earth Sciences yesterday on predictions of the pollution levels is also a very good initiative. But what I feel is that the GRAP has come into force a little late, and by closing down the Badarpur thermal power station, which is one of the biggest sources of air pollution in Delhi, could have happened a little bit earlier, and if it happened a little bit earlier, maybe we could have saved ourselves this. For the last 10 days, the pollution levels, the steep hike in the pollution levels could have been avoided, and added on top the Happy Cedar program, which actually started very well, but then it's having its own set of teething problems and it hasn't been able to be replicated in most parts of Punjab and Haryana. So I think the GRP is a very good initiative, but it has come a little too late, and because of the inversion factor, the problems in Delhi and in the NCR, we are really forgetting the NCR, is actually are mounting. But it's a step, definitely it's a step in the right direction.
Okay, step in the right direction, monitored by the Supreme Court at the behest of the courts. Let me go across to Mr. Kailash Vasudev, senior advocate at the Supreme Court. And Mr. Vasudev, besides asking you the question that has the GRAP come in a little too late, if it had kicked in early, maybe things would have been a little better, maybe the air would not be poor as is being reported. So A, has it come a little too late? And B, I also want to touch upon the point where the NGT has decided to impose a 50 crore fine on the AAP government. You know, for failing to stop these industries that are still functioning within the households and, you know, in habitable areas. In that sense, 50 crore, is that worth the air that we breathe in? Is that all?
Pollution control is not industry control. There is so much which is happening around Delhi and the NCR area. You have stubble burning, you have vehicular traffic, you have massive constructions going on, you have flyovers, expressways, all sorts of construction activities taking place. At this time of the year, everything accumulates into one massive concentration of particulate matter. These are issues which should be attended to as the year goes by, not a knee-jerk reaction at the last minute. Industries in Delhi have to remain because they are cottage industries, major industries have been moved out. If you take away cottage industries from the city, you will take away employment. If you take away employment, you will have another set of difficulties. Pollution is not industry related at all today because Delhi has got a sea change over the past 15 years in industrial situations. The overall concentration of particulate matter is coming because of construction activity, as also, as I said, from the stubble burning in the northern regions. Last year there was an assurance that this stubble burning would stop. It is not going to stop because rains have come to an end. Rains came a bit late, so the stubble is going to be carrying more moisture. More moisture means more smog. Punjab government, Haryana government, partly the state of UP, all of them are not going to assist you in cutting down the stubble burning because they want money to finance the farmer to avoid this situation. The consequence of the whole thing is pollution is here, it is going to stay, it's going to get worse. Whether you put in plan A, you put in plan B, you come at the last minute. You see, by putting in the last minute,
Mr.
it's not going to be a solution.
Let me, Mr. Vasudev,
look at situations as they are growing over the years.
Okay. Mr. Vasudev, give me a minute. I will go across to Akshay Marathi, who represents the Aam Aadmi Party here. He is Joint Secretary in the Aam Aadmi Party. And Akshay, you've been a staunch critic of neighbouring states for stubble burning, and rightly so. I don't blame you there. You've criticized the union government as well. But now that the NGT, and to my mind 50 crore is just nothing, but the fact that the NGT in some sense symbolically slapped a fine on the government for failing to close steel pickling industries, and I know there are larger ramifications of this, why did you fail to do so? Wasn't this important?
No, absolutely. It's absolutely important to shut down any polluting industry which is not following norms. But while I am saying that, I would also like to clarify that I have not yet been able to read the order of the NGT. The government is also going through the order and figuring out exactly what violation has taken place. If there is a violation, if some industries have been polluting, especially in residential areas, I believe this matter is catering to Wazirabad. If the government does find that there is such an instance, then we will take action immediately. About the fine, if the government comes to a conclusion that the industries do exist and they have been flouting norms, we will happily pay that fine and ensure that such a thing never occurs in Delhi again. But in case that we find that there is no truth to it, then we will of course be challenging the order. But while I am saying that, I must also make a larger point about pollution in this entire North Indian region. This happened last year also, this happened the year before that also. All of us have seen this NASA aerosol depth map, which shows that this problem stretches right from Punjab to as far east as Banaras in Uttar Pradesh. So when you have a problem that stretches the entire expanse of the North Indian plains, it's important to look at it from a holistic perspective where all states, all stakeholders have to come together to solve this problem. While I do believe that there are internal factors in Delhi, such as the Badarpur thermal power plant, and there is construction activity also. You see, construction activity is something that you cannot put a complete blanket ban on.
Yes.
It can only be banned in extreme situations when there is an emergency.
Fair point.
I want to point out to you one figure from last year. I remember I was on similar debates even last year.
Right.
As soon as the stubble burning had stopped, I had actually checked the PM 2.5 and PM 10 levels in Delhi.
Right.
On 22nd November 2017, which was right after the stubble burning stopped, PM 2.5 was 57 and PM 10 was 86.
Okay.
So my point is that throughout the year, Delhi does have pollution, but it's nothing compared to what we face.
Okay,
in
we
this
get
1
that
month
point.
of
The Aam
stubble
Aadmi
burning.
Party would believe that it's all happening on account of
on the one
stubble
hand,
burning.
it's-
I get your point, Akshay. Give me a minute. I want to go across to Dr. Sumit Sharma. And Dr. Sharma, you know, we are now debating the sources of pollution. How serious is steel pickling versus, you know, there are about 17 steel pickling industries in Delhi. Is it becoming a bigger problem than vehicular pollution? Is it becoming a bigger problem than stubble burning? You know, I'm just trying to understand. Now let's address sources of pollution. If that is the issue, if sensitizing people is the issue, let's first address the pollution sources to begin with.
Yeah. So we have done a recent study, and you know, our results are telling us that, and I'm talking about winters here. You know, 30% of PM 2.5 in the whole winter season is contributed by vehicles. Another set of 25 to 30% is coming from industries. And I must clarify that these industries are not just in Delhi, but most of them are outside Delhi, which are contributing to pollution levels in Delhi due to the atmospheric transport. And these industries include brick kilns, you have a lot of other small and medium scale industries, stone crushers. They are all contributing to about 25 to 30% pollution levels in Delhi. Other than this, 15 to 20% is coming from biomass combustion. You will be surprised to know that 3 million households in NCR are using biomass for cooking their food. You know, all that results into a lot of emissions, and which gets transported to Delhi. Some of it gets transported to Delhi and contributes. And then agricultural burning is this episodic problem which happens in this part of the year, and the concentrations just grow humongously, and you know, gives rise to severe conditions of air quality.
No, I'll take this across to Mr. Kailash Vasudev before I go back to Ms. Naini and of course Mr. Marathi. Mr. Vasudev, amidst all this debate, the blame game continues. Are courts and judiciary the last resort for a citizen to demand free, clean, breathing air? I mean, you know, breathing free, clean air is perhaps a fundamental right that is not mentioned in the Constitution. Is it time that the courts exercise that option?
See, there is another issue here which is becoming very important today. It is a basic changing of goalposts as far as forests are concerned. In the standard norms, we said that India should have a 35% forest cover. Forest cover means forest covered under the Forest Act or under the Conservation of Forests Act. What the government has done is a very neat turnaround. They say it is green cover. What do you mean by green cover? That means anything which looks over a hectare of land green on the satellite, that becomes green cover. So forests may be depleted, but if green cover is maintained, let us maintain it. Let's give an example for Delhi. Delhi's area is 1455 square kilometers. So technically you require 30% of the area to go into forests, which is about, say, about 200 square kilometers should be forests and dense forests.
Right.
Statistics now reveal that the dense forests are less than 90 kilometers. The notified forest area are now encroached upon.
Right.
And the areas around, like parks, big parks, all those are now counted as green areas.
Yeah.
If you have a cluster of trees, say driving into one of the main boulevards of New Delhi or driving into a park, you don't put them as forests, you put them as green covers, but you add that for the purposes of forest purposes.
Right, right.
The consequence is you are replacing big trees which are hundreds, 200 years old with saplings, seedlings and the like, which are large in number.
Right.
But the actual tree cover is vanishing. When you're doing construction of highways,
Yes,
you're not undertaking construction activities, buildings are coming up and the like.
Right.
You cannot get rid of trees. Please do not do it.
Fair
and
point.
have a relook at this policy, because in due course of time,
Okay.
you will erode the whole system.
Okay, fair point.
No
That's
one
a-
is looking at this point where you're changing goalposts.
You can't be changing goalpost as far as nature and as far as clean breathing air is concerned, is the loud message that's coming in from this panel. But before I go across to Ms. Jaiseelan, I want to take a quick question to you, Mr. Akshay Marathi. And this is actually a tweet that came out from the Urban Housing Development Minister, Mr. Puri, and he says that the Delhi government is holding on to Metro Phase 4 since October 14, and Delhi Merit RRTS since December 2016, despite repeated reminders. The question then is, why no commitment? There is a lot of vehicular pollution that happens. This is going to take care of things like these. Delhi did not have so many CNG buses last time. Now we are talking about RRTS and Phase 4 Metro. Why is this not happening? Why is the government not moving on it?
So let's understand the structure of Delhi Metro. Delhi Metro has a 50-50 stake between Delhi government and the central government. Despite Delhi government having a 50% stake in Delhi Metro, we get very little say in how the metro is run. One example of this is that over the last year or year and a half, the Delhi Metro has doubled its fares owing to a loss of more than 2 lakh commuters per day. The Delhi government had strongly opposed the doubling of the fare because we knew this is going to happen. The world over, the fact is that as soon as you increase public transport fares by this significant margin, the commuter level is going to rise, the ridership is going to reduce. So on the one hand, you have a situation where the Delhi government has 50% ownership but no control. And on the other hand, the Delhi Metro or the central government expects the Delhi government to foot 90% of all costs and run the metro, run Metro Phase 4, carry out the construction work, but gives no control to the people of Delhi on how to run their own metro. There have been some issues in terms of the finance ministry of the Delhi government about these cost calculations and the amount of control that the Delhi government has. We have been trying to work that out with the central government, but as you are aware, we have a hostile situation on the other end. But I am optimistic that the Metro Phase 4 will be cleared soon. The Chief Minister has already spoken with Mr. Puri. On the other hand, I would also like to point out that for the first time in 7 years, we have placed an order for 500 standard floor buses which will be delivered to Delhi in a matter of a few months. There had been delays on this front also, and those delays were to do with the fact that the Delhi government was not able to place these orders, which has been accepted by us at every such debate. But now that has also been done away with. We have been able to expand our fleet.
Okay.
By the end of next year, you will have an expanded public transport fleet of DTC
I
buses
hope by
also.
next year I will also have cleaner, fresher air to breathe. But give me a question to Miss Naini Jaiseelan and Miss Jaiseelan. You know, one of the things is also about sensitizing people besides sensitizing government. Last year, I remember when the crackdown happened on crackers during Diwali, many eyebrows were raised. It became, you know, why is the one community being singled out from celebrating festivals as we know them. This year, the Supreme Court has made an observation on Dussehra, and there's a very divided sort of a narrative on that, at least on social media, that we sample as well. So in some sense, what needs to be done for stricter implementation besides sensitization? Because it's not just the pollution boards that seem to be lacking and failing, it's the government and at some stage also the citizens. It can't be, this works for me and this, I want clean air but I still want to burn crackers. So where does the sensitization need to happen?
Well, I must say that a couple of years ago, I would say about 10 years ago, there was hardly any sensitization to this very vital problem. Now, over the years, sensitization is definitely increased, but that sensitization hasn't translated itself into concrete action. And what I mean by concrete action, I mean concrete action by the government, by the citizens and by everybody. Now, I do remember that RRTS was a scheme which was sanctioned about 3 to 4 years, 5 years ago, and we still are not, we are still at the drawing board stage of the RRTS, which would have avoided the heavy rush on private vehicles between Delhi and Meerut, Delhi and Alwar, and Delhi and Panipat, and had that come into being earlier, you know, and it had moved faster, a huge amount of the pollution problems from the transport sector could have got solved. Similarly, phase 4 of the metro. Now, transport is a huge contributor. There are differences in opinion as to what is the percentage, but it's a huge contributor. The huge amounts, number of electroplating units in Wazirabad industrial area and other areas continue. So, while I am saying that sensitization is definitely on the rise, people are much more aware of it, the children are much more aware of it, but the fact is that the sensitization has to translate itself into concrete action, and that is where as citizens, as governments, we seem to be failing. And every time we have to say that it will happen next year, it should happen now, and now is the time that it should happen, because every year October, November, December, because of the adverse meteorological factors of inversion and all that, the citizens are going through a period where, people who are aged have to move to other places. Children are wearing masks in school. So, that sensitization is happening, it is going on, but it is not translating itself into concrete action, and the public transport projects definitely should be on fast forward mode.
I will give a quick last word to Mr. Kailash Vasudev because I cut him short earlier. The sensitization process, do you believe also will need a court sanction now? Forget about, the government doing it, because the government hasn't been able to solve the vehicular pollution problem in the state of Delhi and of course the NCR, whether it's RRTS or whether it's phase 4 metro. But do you believe at some level even the sensitization process needs to be made mandatory and needs to be done on war footing? We can't keep saying every year it's going to be next year.
Under the constitutional scheme, you have directive principles of state policy. You have obligations on the state. Citizens today are very sensitive to what is happening. They are themselves taking precautions all over the place. Take for example school children. They turn around and say, Dad, we don't want crackers this year. Adults turn around and say, we want to have a proper healthcare system where we can go in a park and get some fresh air. Because of failure of governance, political clashes between governments, a bureaucratic, should I say, lay down, doing nothing, and a total, I repeat, a total failure to look at India as a holistic country. Excepting for knee-jerk reactions, we have nothing in the matter of pollution. You have been now hearing about the Ganges, where people have sacrificed their life wanting a cleanup of the river. You have all sorts of situations which take place. See what happened in Kullu Manali because of the adverse conditions. You have had floods, people going away, people dying, all sorts of things. We are not having a governance system in which infrastructure is being planned. Everything is for the moment. Till you don't have an overall planning, look at pollution, look at the environment, preserve the ecosystems, this is going to go on year after year, and we will all succumb to this kind of a terrible situation in the air qualities. Till you don't regulate your system, till you don't open your house, till you don't bring in advisors, you are not going to have any improvement.
And it can't be a piecemeal approach. I agree with you, Mr. Vasudev. I'm sorry, I'll have to cut you short there, but I agree with you. It can't be a piecemeal approach. It can't be an approach that comes in every year when pollution heightens, when PM levels go up. It has to be a sustained effort at every level, whether that's the Pollution Control Board or the government or the courts, and of course the masses at large. We cannot want clean air at the same time and insist on burning crackers either. I mean, look at the response on social media to that ban on the Shara fires from next year. It will give you a sense of some of the statements being made and how hypocritical they are in nature. But thanks very much all of you for being with us on this edition of the India Development Debate. We take a quick breather on that note.